Hi everyone, I'm Marie and we're coming to you live from Living Felt because it's Happy Woolly Wednesday! Oh, happy Wednesday, y'all, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have a fun needle felting project, so I hope you're feeling beachy because we're going to needle felt these cute little shorebirds, sandpipers, or any other shorebird that you like. It's very beginner friendly, super duper easy, and we're going to try and get all that done in about an hour. So thank you so much for being here. You'll see our friends are chiming in over in the live chat. Be sure to say hi and where you're from. This is an interactive show, so whether you're watching the replay or the live show, thanks for joining in. And as you chime in, you get entered to win prizes. So we do have 2 prizes to give away from last week. We needle felted our beachy gnomes. And man, I want to tell you, it's been so cute seeing everyone's beachy gnomes in our Facebook group called Living Felt Friends. Just so much fun to see all the directions they've taken them, including some with some sunburns, including. Pretty cute. Okay, so we're giving away prizes to Jennifer Kelly and Marilee Dalen. You can either choose the Beachy Gnome Kit or a Maori goodie bag, which we showed on last week's show. So congratulations, y'all. Just reach out to us if you're not already in our database. And everyone else, say hi and where you're from. I'll say hi to a couple of people. Hi to Carol in California and Julie also in California. Susan's in New Jersey and Dana's in Montana. I think it's been hot just everywhere. The gals are nodding. It's totally hot here too. Fiona all the way in Australia, Jan in Ontario, Lisa also in Ontario, that's fun. Gabriella all the way from the Czech Republic. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so glad y'all are here. Christina in Poland, Marjo in the Netherlands. Well, those are some of our usual suspects, and hopefully you will be soon too. So I'm going to cut out because we have some magical fairies lined up here to share a few things with you that you might consider for your felting adventures coming up. And the first up is the very magical fairy Trish.
Wow! Hey y'all, this is our brand new Sandpiper kit. If you can't get to the shore, we'll get the shore to you. Just order this. You can click the link below or go to our website, and you cannot make only one. You can make 2 of these, not 1 but 2. And if you are a sucker for someone who's tall, you know, we got you covered. Legs for days, okay? So anyway, get yours today, and the next up is Fairy Alyssa.
Yay! Woo-hoo!
Hey, today I'm going to show you one of our New Zealand Corriedale Studio packs. This one's called Spanish Fiesta. We just love how bright and fun these colors are. They're good for pretty much anything. Alrighty, up next is Fairy Angela.
Yay!
Hey y'all, so we've got some more beachy things in the shop. This is one of our wool felt sheet bundles. This one is called Beachy Cabana. It comes in 6 different colors. Each sheet is 8 by 12 inches and it is 100% wool felt. And up next is the bodacious Fairy Anne.
Thank you, Angela. We have just been really wanting to be at the beach this week, and this is our Paradise Island Specialty Designer Pack. The Specialty Designer Packs are one of my favorite things in the shop because they have a little bit of everything. We got some finer fibers, finer wool fibers, perfect for wet felting, and then some silky embellishments too. So we're feeling very inspired by this palette, and we can't wait to see what y'all make with it. Next up, Fairy Marie.
Okay, I'm back with my birds, but that's not all of the fairies. We also have for you the very funny Fairy Kayla chiming in from afar.
Hey everybody, happy Woolly Wednesday! I just wanted to pop in really quick and share some funniness with you for the week. So I did have a question for you. What do you call a pumpkin who works at the beach?
What do you call a pumpkin who works at the beach?
A lifeguard. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day and see you next week.
Can I just see a big round of hearts for all of the fairies? This is our crew. They keep it lively around here, magical and funny and very colorful. They make everything we send to you. They help name all the things that we make up around here, answer your phone calls, answer your emails, provide tech support, and otherwise just keep us smiling all the time. So that is our crew, and we thank you all for joining us today. We are Living Felt, based in Central Texas, but as you can see, we have friends all over the world. We thank you for being one of them. Thanks for being here. Today, let's make some shorebirds. So we're going to make these cute little sandpipers. I'd like to run over the basic tools that I'm using in these guys. So I think we popped up the supplies. Let me run through the tools first and we'll pop up the supplies as well. I'm working on our WOW felt pad. Any size larger than a 9x9 will do. For reference, this is a 9x9. We're going to be using brown, this is our brown covered armature wire, 18 gauge. I'm going to be using a 50-50 solution. You can use fabric stiffener or like a PVA glue. It's just 50% glue or fabric stiffener and water, and something to apply it with. We'll do that at the end. Basic felting needles from coarse to fine. Today I'm working with a 32 triangle, a 38 star spiral, and all the rest are 42 triangles. Some scissors perhaps, wire cutter, needle nose pliers, and I'm using 2 awls today, both a straight and a tapered awl. Those are the basic tools. And then for the supplies are very, very simple. We're going to be using our CW1 core wool, and we're going to be using wool batting. This is the brown I've chosen for today's project, is Maori in beaver, and then we're using our MC1 cotton white. Okay, and the last things you're going to need are, we're using 100% wool felt sheet, and if you get the kit from us, I lost my cover sheet. If you get the kit from us, then you'll also get a little pattern, and we're going to use that together. Okie doke, and that's really all we need to get started. Cool, thanks for being here, y'all. So I hope you grab a beverage and put up the umbrella so you don't get too much sun if you happen to be hanging out on the beach, and join us today for this little project. I'll put him off to the side, and just let us know if you have any questions as we go along, and we're just going to try and click through this about as quickly as we can. We're going to start with our 18 gauge armature wire. This is a covered wire. In the kit, you will get more pieces than you need, and in the kit you get enough to make 2 of these birds, but we give you a couple of extra just in case, you know, something goes awry. So if you're ready, just give us a big thumbs up down there and let's get started. Okay, you're going to take your first piece of wire and just bend it exactly in half and give it a good pinch here at the end. This is where your wire cutters come in handy, and make it flush. I am going to just pinch that end right there. This is actually going to be our bird's beak if you follow my same methods, and just a little ways back, like maybe 1 inch or so, I will hold those with my pliers and then separate these wires out kind of like a wide V. That's the easiest way to do it. And then we twist. So as long as you have a nice V while you twist, then you will have an even twist. If the wires are too close together, then it's like one tends to wrap around the other one, but I just use my fingers in this little opening right here and twist it nice and tight. Okay, get it, just twist it all the way, and then we are going to put on our leg wire. So that doesn't need to be any particular shape just now, but you can use your little diagram if you want once we shape this and see where the wire goes on the leg. I like to do just about 3 to 4 fingers from the end. The legs don't actually need to be in the exact same place. They can be a little bit off. So let me show you that. You're going to take your wire here and you can kind of find the halfway point. Put it on your bird-ish. So again, I like to be like 3-4 fingers from the end for mine, about there. And then we're going to get a really good pinch to bind it close to the spine wire. If you're a little nervous about this at all for any reason, just start with chenille stems. and practice, make a couple chenille stem bird, under parts and see if you like them. Sometimes it's hard to get that to anchor right on there, so if you lay it flat, especially if you have something like the Wow Pad or just maybe right on your table, then you can use one finger to hold that down and bend this really tight around, and that's going to lock it a little bit better. If you want to get them as close as possible, so once you go over the first time, go ahead and pinch it down if you can. If there's a little bit of play in it, it's okay. We'll lock it down with wool. But I like to go around this a couple of times and get them each wrap as close as you can, and then the same with the other one. Just wrap the opposite way. And like I said, we gave you an extra wire, so if you're just totally unhappy with where you put them in the beginning, then go back and just cut this off and use another wire. So they can be a little off of each other, that's fine. And then what you're going to do is you can use your diagram if you have it, if you have the kit. And basically, I like to use my thumb to kind of shape the head and the beak like this. And this wire just needs to run down the middle of the body. It doesn't even need to be all that fancy of a shape. Basically, you want it to run down the middle. So the leg wire is about right there, the head wire is about right here, and that's where it's going to go, is basically down the middle of the bird. That's close enough to get started.
Kevin asks, if you don't have a covered wire, could you use floral tape?
You can. That's a great question, Kevin. Yes, you can wrap this in floral tape if you want it to help grab onto the wool, or you could also wrap it with a chenille stem if you want. I wouldn't necessarily wrap the legs unless you want them to be thicker, so you might wrap the legs in floral tape, and you can wrap this in floral tape or with a chenille stem, however you want to do it. Okay, cool. So we're going to start with our core wool. We're giving you this amount for each bird, so make sure you divide it, and this is approximately 1 ounce of our CW1 core wool. The first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is take this long strip, if you have a long strip, or whatever you have, and divide it in half, and put half away for the moment. And that way you'll know this is just for one bird, okay? I've divided even what I'm using for one bird, because our goal is to wrap this underbird very, very tightly. So now divide your half, this is basically a 1/2 ounce that you have, untwist it if it's twisted, or if you have any wraps around, undo that, so you can get these nice long strips. At least 3 nice long strips. You could even go to 4. Having these nice long strips are going to give you the greatest amount of control for covering your bird. We want this wool here very, very, very dense. So we will start with our 38 star spiral, or 36 if you prefer. That is a nice coarse needle. We're going to start right here at the head, and we're going to wrap the head, that bend you created. So this right here is about, well, it's longer than my first joint, that very tip there. So we're going to wrap just the head, so get a nice little grab there, just go right over and hold this very tight while you just twist your bird. Now, I want to show you this. So here's what happens as you twist your bird. These little feet, the little ends of the wire tend to grab onto the wool. So if that happens, like it's happening for me, this little tip is to take some painter's tape and just crease in the very ends like this, or something. Someone's going to share another tip that they do for their feet. Take this and then just seal it around that very end so that it's not going to grab onto your wool as much. It's kind of annoying. Sometimes you'll tear a shirt, as you're flipping the thing back and forth. Now you could bend them up, because we're probably going to cut them off if you want, or you could just cover them with a little bit of tape so that they don't grab onto the wool. It's up to you. All right, here we go. So we're going to wrap as tightly as you can, and that means you're just holding a real grip on this fiber. And if it helps you, flip it around. And I'm always twisting the bird and not flopping the wool, and that's going to prevent the wool from getting a bunch of air in it. This will give me the greatest control. So it's a narrow strip, it's a thin strip, And then I am holding tension all the time. Now, someone asked a question last week. Oh, how do you keep the wool from tearing? They're working with the core wool. And the answer is that your fingers are very close to the point of tension. If I'm pulling tension and I back my hands up, it will tear because the fibers are very short. So when you're working with a short fiber, see how my fingers like barely leave the armature? That's how I control it being tight and how I keep it from tearing off. So when you get to the end, just work your way back. We are going to wrap this underbird in this fashion with at least half of your wool. And at the end of each strip, we will needle felt it down. So the reason we can put all this on and not felt it is because there's virtually no distance between the fibers, and this wool grabs onto itself. If you're working with something that doesn't quite grippy onto itself the way our core wool does, then you might need to pause a little bit more frequently and tack it down, but this is just fine like this. So I will sort of grab onto that end and dry felt it a little bit, but before I go letting go or losing all that tension I just put in there, now I'm going to take my very coarse needle, the coarsest, maybe the coarsest one you have. If you like working with a 32, great. If you like the 38 star or the 38 spiral or 38 star spiral, you can use that. I like to use the 32 or the 36 on the under part. So now that's anchored down, and you don't really have to needle felt this a bunch, but if there's air somewhere, like here I have a little bit of a fluff, well, I'll just tack it down. Everything that's tight, the tighter it is, the less I have to tack. But because I put on one long strip, then I don't even have to worry about it. So you are going to repeat this, and I'll just start the next one to build up your underbird. You're going to repeat this until you get a base shape. So when you start the next strip, start in the same place because we want to build a little knobby head here, but always anchor down that very starting point so that the wool has a nice grip before you start wrapping. I'm not hitting the wire, pulling. And if you see how this part right here I have that is kind of clumpy and not all that even, just take a moment to control the wool. So don't let this dictate how you handle the fiber because it's messy and clumpy. Tear it off, get it out of your way so that you have a nice, smooth pile of wool that you put on there. All right? So if you get the bulky bits, tear them off. If you have a thin bit, well, then we'll just go back and fill that in later. And wrap through the legs and are back around the tail. All right, we're going to jump ahead. You can see where we are, and we've ended here now at the tail. So that's where we're going to needle felt, and you do want to cover all the way to the end of the wire. And if you're comfortable, you could bend in those wires, or you could leave them long and just make sure you cover them with wool as you go up and down. So needle felt all of this nice and flat. And then repeat with your third strip. If you divided your 1/2 ounce into 3 strips like I did, then repeat with your third strip. And if you do that, and if you keep needle felting, this is what he will look like. This is a 1/2 ounce of wool, very densely applied to this same exact shape. And this is where we're going to. So when you get to this place, it's once you've used a 1/2 ounce of your wool, and it's very dense. I mean, it's not like rock hard, but it's dense enough that it will hold its shape by itself, and it will still take more wool. What we want is to kind of line it up with your drawing, and what you see is we need a bulk underneath here in the chest and the belly where you'd expect, and a little bit across the back. What we will do is build up this bulk underneath with our extra fiber that's left over. So this is about 4/10. I probably put just a little bit extra on that bird. So we'll take this amount, and we are going to put it underneath here. So how much do we need to do that? Some of it's going to go underneath here, and then we're going to wrap around the top. What's that distance that you want? Where's that area that you're building up the bulk? This is how we're going to do it. So we will take this wool, and I tend to tear it like this and build a stack. Now this isn't the entire half that was there. I left a little bit of that. I divided that piece for like wrapping. And if you can take this piece, so you have this big wad, and then we're going to roll it kind of tight as well and get that to kind of tack down.
So Audrey from the UK was asking, does the wire sit like under the back as the spine, or does it run through the center?
It's a little more, right now it's in the center, but because we're going to add bulk underneath here, it will be a little more towards the spine. So at this moment, it's right in the middle. But as we add the bulk underneath here, it's going to be a little more towards the top of the bird, right? Because he'll have just more underneath than he does on the top. All right, so we're just making this pile, and then we're going to put this pile on the bird and shape him to the bird. It's going to seem wonky at first. We don't need him too big at the head, but lay that on the middle and start tacking it into place. And this is going to be kind of rough and ready as we jump through all of these little steps with you here. We don't want this poofy, really. For my taste, I don't want this poofy. We do want it to be close to the bird, so this does take a little more effort. You do want to use either your coarse needles or your finer cluster, and I'll show you that as well. So get this guy. Now here, where it kind of wraps around the leg and is a little funny, you can tear it a little bit so that more of that comes around the leg to make it a little more even. You don't have to add more fiber on there. Now the other way to do this, instead of just piling this big amount on, if you're a little more patient, is to put on a lump, put on a lump, put on a lump. That's usually the way I would do it if I'm alone in my studios. I'll just keep putting on the lumps. But as much as possible, when you put it on, mash it down so that there's not too much air in between the base that you've already started and what you're adding. I know we're getting some reports that there's some buffering issues, but we're going to keep recording so that we can put this up after in case it doesn't go through. We're just going to keep going on. So thanks y'all for your patience. Okay. It's important that you take the time on this part of your bird to get all of this laying down here and get it attached. How are we doing there, Jordan?
Doing well. We have a few questions. As far as when you were wrapping, if someone didn't have nice strips of core wool and they only had kind of patch-in pieces, how could they go about making the same effect?
It would be it's a little more challenging to wrap if you only have chunks. If you have batting, though, you can pull off your own strips. But if you only have chunks, it's a little more challenging to get all the way around. So I would wrap what you could, tack it down, wrap what you could, tack it down, or see if you could create some, links for yourself. But it definitely is more challenging if you don't have or cannot create long strips. What else?
Did you bend the tail end of the wires so that they don't poke through?
I didn't. I actually didn't because I wanted the length. I just covered them with wool. But you can tuck those ends right underneath. If you felted with me, you know that I do that like 99% of the time. And today I did not do it either on the feet or the tails. Only the beak has a fold back of wire. Okay, we're going to have to kind of jump ahead here And for this bird, what I would say is like getting from this to a more condensed version like this, my preference is to use the cluster of 42 triangles. It's easier on your hands than using a coarse needle and doing that driving action to kind of do, it's a little more of a gradual poke, but it doesn't take quite as much effort. So a lot of you have created these tools with us. You're just rubber banding 3, 4, 5 fine needles together and then go around and compress all of this fiber underneath until it's as dense, you know, as the rest of the bird. So you can see he's not really misshaping in my pinch, and I'm giving him a really good pinch. So go ahead and get all of this part nice and dense. I will need to jump ahead to the next piece of this to get us where we need to go, and this will be just a quick demonstration. Also included in the kit, we're including cotton white. It's a very natural white. Cotton white is an unbleached white fiber. Our core wool is not too dingy, but you can see there is a difference between them, so we're including the white. You might want an even brighter white bird depending on what you're making, but mine, I liked this natural white. We're going to take a piece of this white, and we give you enough in case you decide you want to make more of a white shorebird, but we're going to take a piece of this white and we're going to cover basically the undercarriage and the head. So this will be a quick demonstration as we jump ahead. You're going to take a strip, and you really don't need the full thickness, but you can use it if you want to. Once this guy is all firmed up, then you are going to piece this underneath, wrap this at least slightly up the head, and we're going to tear this just like we did with the core wool so that you get around the legs, and then you're going to needle felt this down. So on the head, we don't want to cover the beak. We want to leave the beak uncovered, and we only need to cover like this much of the head right here. If you want to make the whole thing white, you can, but you don't need to. We're just covering the very tip of the head. So at this stage, when I'm just covering, I will either use a single fine 42 or I'll use this little cluster here and tack all of this wool so that it's laying down nicely. And you do want it to come up to what would be underneath the wing. Alternately, you could do this part at the end, but this gives you a nice foundation on which to put your wings and the detail on the head of your bird. So that's how you piece the white on. Just needle felt this down so that it's all nice and flush. Questions before we move on, Jordan?
Not too many
Anything?
questions so far. It
Okay.
looks like the buffering has fixed itself
Oh,
for
good.
the most part.
Good. Okay, so we're going to do a quickaroonie here. This is what the bird looks like. This is what your bird looks like, except for the beak, and the legs. The beak and the legs I do last. This guy is just a half a bird, so we can do him together. I want to say quickly that if you prefer, before I get there, if you prefer your bird to be freestanding, we are going to be mounting ours in this wood block. Then you can see we have 2 other videos on our YouTube channel. One is for, and we've linked to them in the description. One's for the WAFFA Bird. He's about this size and has freestanding feet. And one is for a little bird. Let me grab these guys. We have, this is called the WAFFA Bird. So it stands for Wild and Free Fiber Art Bird. And we made these guys together. They're freestanding, they're fun, they're fantastic. So also like a shorebird. And then this one was from earlier this year. We made the little titmouse. We showed you how to make clay beaks. We showed you how to make feet that are actually inserted. You might take a hybrid approach if you want to make a clay beak or feet that look a little more realistic. Maybe something in between these 2 approaches would work for you. Okay, so those links are in the description. Now, so we have our underbird ready. Your wires will be naked here, but we're going to make our wings. Take your wing pattern and cut it out. And you're going to want to make 2 wings, and they need to be opposite. So you're going to cut out your wing pattern, and then I encourage you to flip it over and use a marker to draw out the same wing pattern if you want the wing pattern on the opposite side. And this will help you make sure that you have 2 wings. In our supplies list, we're suggesting, and in the kit is included, a sheet of 100% wool felt. This will become the base for our wings. You'll like just having it a little darker than your wool, or brownish rather than white, because it's just going to make it a little bit easier to color. It doesn't matter whether it's one or the other. If you have a difficult time seeing, you're tracing out your wing pattern, and scraps work too if you have scraps. I use tailor's chalk on darker stuff to just trace over. You might have a pounce wheel or a jelly pin or something like that, but you're just going to trace out your wing patterns and then cut them out of your felt. I'm being messy right now. I have wool underneath, that's why. So use your tailor's chalk to cut out your wing out of your felt, and go ahead and cut 2. And then, so this guy, I want the wings going this way. That's how I have it. It's a little more flat on the top and a little more rounded on the bottom. That's how we've made them. And we're going to cover this with our brown wool. This is like step 1. So your brown wool, fairly big amount. You have, we just need enough to cover this wing, and make sure you're doing the right and the left wing, because it does make a difference. Otherwise, you just have to use more to cover it. And all we're going to do is piece this right over the top. Usually flip it over so I can see. I just want enough to wrap around the other side without it being overly bulky. And if any part on this side is a little thin, we'll just use your little patch-in piece and put it right on top. So for this part, just a little bit of patience, and what you're going to do is needle felt right into the felt. Find your way around the middle and make this all nice and flat. You can feel the felt sheet under there with your fingers. You know, you can tell where you are. Find your way and get it all nice and smooth.
Marie, would it be possible to move the workspace a little bit to the left? We have some people watching, I guess, with chat on their TVs, and it kind of covers the right side.
Can you all see now?
I think that's better.
Okay, so get this all nice and flat, and then we're going to peel it up off our wow pad or foam, whatever you have, and see how the end, it's a little bit thin there. I don't quite have enough. Well, you can just take a tiny little pinch just like this and just stick it right there on the end. Tack it down so you get a nice little join. And then we're going to fold it around the back and needle felt it flat. Now you don't need too much bulk back here. You just want to wrap this around. So I'll use my fine needle. I'm using my 42 triangle. I'm going to tack that down. And you can be somewhat loose with what you're tacking down here on the bottom, because this is going to become what helps bind to the body of the bird. It's the top that we're going to get all nice and smooth before we attach to our bird. So work your way around, and here we have all this bulk. Just pull it off and save it. All this stuff is good. We're going to use it in a minute on the back and the feather detail and all of that. So piece this around, work your way around, and then flip it over once you have it fairly pieced. It'll be better than mine. Then I want you to keep needle felting this until it's very nice and smooth. This is what we are going for right here. You can see this piece it's like 98% covered right here. Just a little brown patch of that wool shows. Now, if your kit has a lighter color of felt than mine, don't worry about it. Your kit, if you get a kit with us, either going to have this color felt or this color felt, but this guy's wings are on white. So just know that you want to keep it 100%. You want to get 100% coverage on side 1. Then what we want to do is put it on our bird. Now, I have them pretty much right. You want to find what's the middle, and then the wing connects right at the middle of the bird, and I just like some of the body to show. So there's about like a pinky finger at the base of the neck right there, about a pinky finger's distance back. Just try that, you know, give it a go, find the position, see where you like it. And we are actually going to needle felt right through this little wing that we created. So you might try see how you like your 38 star spiral for this one. I like it for this portion, and we'll also jump to our final needles. So right here, we're going to needle felt right into that perimeter and push so that you have a really nice little join. I want the wings to just be flush up against each other, and put them right down there into the body. Now, if needle felting the wings to your body causes your bird to misshapen, he's not firm enough. So if driving a coarse or semi-coarse needle into your bird causes him to cave in, peel off that wing and go back and needle felt him some more. I stop here about, you want these two even, but it's about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. That's like loose. So you want that whole tail part covered with the white there. Bear with me here, I just get mine tacked on, because this is the side we're going to finish together. Now go around all this part of the wing as well and just lay it right down there on the bird. So around the whole perimeter, I'm sort of needle felting into the felt and the wool as well. Wool from side one is going to push all the way through. And don't worry about how it looks, because all of this gets covered. But right here, again, right as I'm getting about to this place, I leave them a little loose so they look like they're kind of sitting on the bird. Now, avoid sculpting this part of the wing too much just yet. If you follow this method, just get all the edges so that they're nice and laying down. Okay, now we're going to add our wing pattern, and all of that is just a blend of wool that we're going to stretch down from the head. So you can do this part all at once if you want. I'll start blending this, and then we'll take any questions if you have. You're going to take some little bit of your brown and some little bit of your white. You can always start with like a 50-50 or a, 2/3, 1/3, whatever feels comfortable. And we're just going to stack and pull and stack and pull. This is how we blend. We want this to be kind of mottled, some white streaks in there, lightening the brown. And I'm just gonna keep blending this for the moment. What's happening, Jordan?
Joan asks, would it be easier to put the feather design on first?
I'm going to show you a reason I didn't. You can marry the two up, but we're going to use that. We're going to use the position on the bird as our guide of where we want things to go, get the two to match, and then not needle felt through the pattern that we created, except where we want to. So you can try that, but I found it a little bit easier to do it for me once it was on the bird, because I knew where everything would be. And we also were going to cover the top right now. It also leaves part of the wing sort of unfelted so that you can use that feltability, if you will, in the further attachment of the wing to the bird. So there might be a tendency to overfelt that wing a little bit if you do it separate. Okay, I have a mishmash here of fiber, about like this is fine, mottled in places, streaky in other places, and I'm just going to use that as I desire. We can start here at the head if you want, just for efficiency, and around the head, it doesn't quite come all the way to the front, and it doesn't quite come all the way down. I don't really think you can get this wrong, and every bird, every animal is going to be a little bit different. So, but have fun with that, piece it down, and then we're just putting on a very thin layer. It's okay if you can see the white underneath, and it's okay if you don't have some big, beautiful piece to lay down. And we'll put on a little more right around the eye when we get to that point. So tack this part down. And any little bits, like if you think, well, I don't want that white chunk there, you can either pull it out or you can cover it up. You're not going to get this part wrong.
Devin asks, is there a PDF only version of this?
We didn't do the PDF because there's not the written instructions. I didn't outline all the steps. but you know, we can. So if you give us till sometime tomorrow, then we can create one, and we'll link to it on the supplies page. So just go follow the link for today in today's description, and we can throw up a PDF version of this with the steps outlined as well. And if you buy the kit, well, then what we'll do is we'll give you a little coupon that you can use to get that if you want a reminder of the steps, because it's not in the kit. If we don't include it in the kit, maybe I'll type them up and get them in there for you. So get all this nice and laying down. Mine's pretty rough and ready, but let's jump to how we get the wing pattern on there. If I will just get him laying down. Right here at the very beginning of the wings, I'm just going to use the same little mottled bit that we have, just to kind of get it started and bridge between the neck and the back. What do we think? People gonna make them?
Very excited to make them. Some people want to make them with red legs and different,
cute,
different shorebirds and really fun different mounting kind of ideas.
Yeah, lots of things you can do. That's for sure. Okay, so look, we have like the basic bridge here, and you can always come back and soften this here. You can come back and be very intentional in all these little bits. Just a little tiny bit of fluff right here is going to soften where the wing starts on the body. And again, I'm using my 42 triangles. You will need to needle felt longer than you're seeing me needle felt. I don't needle felt fast. Everything I do is slow. And you want it all laying down so that it's not fluffy. So you have a nice firm base. But on the wing pattern, you're just going to follow the little diagram. No, if you want, it doesn't really matter. We just decided to give you some diagram. But I use this same stuff here. And because I don't want the wings to be this solid brown except for at the very base, so the first thing I do is I'll take just a strip of this white and run it up about, I don't know, it feels like about a 1/4 inch up this wing. Don't ever pull anything so tight that the line becomes straight. See how it just can naturally lay there in that angle? And just tack it down as you guide it. So you just kind of pull it and then tack it down. Now this, friends, is the essence of shorebird. I'm never really striving for 100% realism. I really wanted to do these in like colors. I wanted to do it in indigo blue as much as I wanted to do it in brown. So maybe my next one, I guess that's what the WAFFA Bird was for, but just have fun with it. I think it'd be great to see a variety of colors and not just realistic shorebirds as well. Okay, so we have a couple of little suggestions there. And then for the top, just do the same thing with your wool. You're just going to guide your wool into these little loop-de-doops and start at whatever point feels comfortable. So I just start at like 1 point. It's hard to see, sorry. I don't have a way to hold my bird up. Okay, so you're going to start at like 1 point and then just drag it around to the other point. And see how we get some natural coverage there, makes it not seem too stark. And you can either pull it off, or if your fibers are longer, then just cut them as you go. Don't be afraid to cut them. That's totally okay. So just on the wings, just follow that pattern around as you go, all the way down wherever you want it to look, feathery, just like that. And if you have too much brown in place, like in the middles, you can come back and fill it in with your little hybrid blended amounts. So continue that, building up your wing pattern. See how I've done it here. I just loop, loop, loop. It's very simple. It's not very complicated at all. But once I have that wing pattern in place on both wings, then I like to come back with a coarse needle like my 38 star spiral, and starting even right here, I'm going to needle felt it right into the body of the bird and go underneath what looks like all of those feathers and really drive it in. This is going to firm up your wing, but it's also going to give it some variance in the dimension so that some parts of those feathers are sticking up, but this one is very flat and doesn't have much character. This has a little more body and interest to it. So that's why I wanted to save some of that feltability back, and then just get all of this nice and tacked down. Let's jump over here to our eye on this side. Do we have any questions or any comments, Jordan, before we move on to that?
A few that'll come into play later, but
Okay.
maybe verification that the kit involves 2 sets of eyes, right?
Yes, you get 2 sets. You get 2 sets of the same glass eyes that I'm using in the kit. Mhm.
Kevin Nobles made a comment that you could reduce one of the sizes and make like a mama and a baby bird.
Oh man, that's so cute. And the babies are always so fluffy, aren't they? Okay, you're going to want to find your eye placement, and you want it to be the same all the way through, for which I should have brought something. Hold, let me grab something. Look at the birds, look at the birds, look at the birds. Okay. The easiest way I've found to get the eyes in the same place when you do this is to take like a long needle and get your bird so that you're looking down on it, however, and drive that needle through one of the sockets all the way through to the other one. So you kind of have to start even before you have an eye socket, and you have to decide, this is where I think my eyes are going to go, so that you feel like it's level. That's where you find that it is. So you kind of start one and get it in place, and then you have to go over here and do the other one. I will start with my needle right there in the bird and start needle felting this eye socket in. Now don't hit the needle, because you will snap your needle, but you want to bury the eye in an eye socket. If you just let it sit on top, it's really obvious, and it always feels a little stuffed animal-ish. And that might be fun and playful, but even if it's blue or a purple bird or an orange bird, I think you're going to find that it adds some interesting character if you just bury that eye into a socket. So right now I'm just using a 36 triangle. You might be using a 32 or something. And if you feel like you're hitting the wire, then you do have to get at an angle. So you can go this way and this way and this way and try and dig out that eye socket. Once you have it started, it's a great time to bring in your awl. And in this case, the tapered awl, because it's going to get bigger as it goes further in. And you'll find it's going to be difficult to go very deep if you go straight down. So you do have to kind of go at an angle and get into the bird there. Now often you'll do this and then you still have to go back and tack this fiber down to really create a place for that eye to sit. And especially in this case, we're using 7 millimeter glass eye. So let me get this guy. I just flung something. What was that? I don't know. I just sent flying. The glass eyes, is that what I just lost? Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, Jordan. Now this guy was buried. Let's see if I have another one. I have another one. This guy was buried. It's okay, I have one. Okay. This guy was buried in an eye socket, and because I dug him out, the eye socket doesn't show so much, but we'll make that on this side. So the glass eyes come on a long rod like this. And what you want to do is cut it so that it's not longer than you need, but long enough to get a good anchor in there. And when you cut it, do your best to cut it at a nice angle, and that's going to give you a little more of a sharp point. If you've created a good hole, that won't matter quite so much. And then you're going to plunge this into that hole that you made. And if you can't find it, we'll just go back and make it again. So I'm fluffy here because you can tell I haven't paused and done my work. But make this eye like you want, like these little common sandpipers that I was looking at often have like a little tiny streak of white in here somewhere, and a little bit of fluffy brown around the bottom as well. So you can come back and just put a little bit of a patch here. Underneath, use your fine gauge needle for that, and tack it down. Now, if you want to create a little eyelid, you can use the white or this little homogeneous blend like we have here. And that's what I do. Like, I just let it be a little bit variegated, and then I'm going to take it from a clump and then draft it out into a little bit of a long piece. If you have any vegetable matter in that around this eyes, you don't want it. So pull it out, make just a little long piece and start twisting it. If you have a nice surface, kind of like this wow pad, well then you can roll it on there once you get it started. And just felt it down into a little tiny cord. It helps if your hands go this way, actually. Get it going. So make a tiny cord, and we're going to wrap that around the eye. There we go. And if you start it right here, or on the front part of the eye there, tack it down. You want the eye sitting just, the glass eye sitting just under that eyelid, and tack this all the way around. Obviously, I've made a piece longer than I needed, but I always do that, and then you can use it on the other side of your bird. Wrap it back, and then right here where it comes to a point, you can trim it or tear it off depending on how much it's felted. You can just cut it off a little bit and then tack that down. But it's going to give your bird just a little more of a realistic look if you give him a little bit of an eye socket for that to sit into. Now, real quick, let's look at the beaks and the legs. They're done the same exact way. So we're going to cook through that over here on one of our naked birds. Let's do that on this partially guy. This is the guy we started together. So I'm robbing him of all of his wool. And we're going to put just the straight brown on the legs of your bird and on the beaks. So get a strip of your brown, and it doesn't even have to be all that much, but something like this to start with, like for the beaks. And always control that end. So try for a strip just about maybe that long. Narrow it out. I'm going to, before I start anything, I'm going to anchor it right in there, right in the face. Even though your bird's finished, you can just do that. Anchor it right in there in the front, and then we're just going to wrap that over and over, just like we did the under bird. Go over the end of the beak. You can get that little tiny little cotton swab tip and fold it back, and then go back. And only let it get bulky, meaning a little more dense, right here at the face. And if you need to, where it joins the face, you can go back and add just another little strip. So tear it off and finish it there where your bulk is. And if you have too much, just take it off. There we go. Seal, seal, seal with your dry felting. And if you have this batting, you're going to be impressed that this batting is going to kind of hold its shape, but just tack it down a little bit the best you can with a fine or a medium fine needle. Now the only difference with the legs is I didn't make any part bulkier than the other. So I just went up and down the legs, really just down, and I made mine super skinny, okay? So I left the legs super skinny. Now the reason we brought in our little glue or fabric stiffener is for this portion right here. I just use like an old makeup lotion container, whatever, and I do a little 50-50 blend. You can use your fingers. I'm going to use my fingers anyway, but up and down the legs, just something to apply it, and then you're just going to tap it on there. I've used a paintbrush tube, then you always have to wash it out. You're going to tap it on there and just seal you're going to seal the beaks and the legs. So then with your fingers, you're just going to tap it in all the way around, same with the legs, all the way around. And for the final portion, once you have it all covered, is you're just going to twist it. So this is not felting, right? I'm just sealing off something I felted. And I find that beaks and legs tend to get a lot of work. Beaks and legs tend to get a lot of work, but just set it overnight to dry. And when you're done, you're gonna have something very solid and secure like this. very solid and secure like this. Like I can touch it and I can rub it. It's no problem at all. In fact, I have one here for you that I made. It's freestanding. I made it over a piece of wire and it's totally firm. It's totally sealed. It does have a different hand, meaning it looks different than something that's just pure wool. So you're not going to want to go covering your whole sculptures, but it's a really good treatment for making something like more solid and more firm. Now, when you're all done and it's dried the next day, then you can bring in something like your mounting, your wood, whatever you're going to use. I was telling the gals that I've had this piece of wood in my life for about 25 years. I picked it up off the beach in California before I moved. So some piece of wood, some other thing that you have a floral foam that you're going to use and then cover that with wool or something. But to make my holes, I just used a straight awl and I poked them right in here into my driftwood. I went straight because I don't want the bird to swivel around in here. And I will tell you that after you've put your stuff on the ceiling, you can still cut the legs. They're going to get a little loose and you can always go back and seal them if you want to, or you don't have to. This is sort of like a seasonal thing, and what's fun is I can put them up and take them down and pack him all away once summer is over and it's time to pull out the pumpkins, because he's not permanent. But if you were going to sell him or put him in a gallery or something, then you probably want to permanently attach him with like super glue or E6000 or something that's just a little more permanent.
Nice.
I think we did it. Did we do it?
Yeah, we have a few questions
Okay.
towards the end. So how long are your legs, the legs here?
I don't know. I've already cut them, so I don't know. As long as my middle finger, 6 inches or so. I ended up, one is like 5 and one's 6 inches. I'm half tempted to cut this one down because I want to make him like eating out of a little seashell. So I'm thinking to cut him down. I didn't give him knees or bends or anything, and I want to, so have fun with that.
And then do you have any tips on where to get driftwood, especially for our landlocked friends?
Yeah, if you don't have driftwood, I would use something like, we have some cut pieces of 2x4 and I would paint them. I would paint them and make them look a little beachy, or you can use floral foam and cover that with wood. You can also try and get some like fireplace wood, and sometimes you can find birch logs, and I think a birch log would look really cute, so you can probably order that online, like a birch log. Find them somewhere. I bet you can.
Awesome.
What else?
And can you remind us what exactly that glue mixture was?
Oh, I just use like a fabric stiffener. That's Aileen's fabric stiffener, and it's a 50-50 mixture with water. Yep. Just keep it last forever, pretty much. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I can't wait to see your shorebirds. Well, I have to tell you, Fairy Ann has come back because she wanted to give away prizes today. What are you giving away today, Ann?
All right, today we are giving away either the Sandpiper kit, of course, or if needle felting 2D pictures is your thing, you can pick the Hidden Lake kit.
Oh, fun. So Hidden Lake or the Sandpiper. Thanks for coming back to give away prizes.
Oh my gosh, always.
Thanks y'all for joining us. Super fun. Okay, I'm going to get one. I've got two. Okay, Ann's going to get one. Who do you got, Ann?
I have Mary Recchio.
And I have Charlene or Charlene Green. Congratulations, y'all. Thank you so much for felting with us today. Listen, you win these prizes, decide which one you want, reach out to us on our website, just go to the contact us page and tell us which prize you want. If you're not in our database, give us all your info. We'll get it to you wherever you are. And if you like Christmas, I want you to mark your calendars for next week, because Kimberly Czar is going to be in the house of Czar Designs. Some of you know she is whimsical, magical, and such a delightful needle felter. She designed for us our Snow Village kit, and she is coming